start, sub, or sit for you. And we've themed this, the keep it simple, stupid question, or the KISS, philosophy of, what's something that, it's just better to keep it simple in your mind. And we're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball here. So start, sub, or sit, these 3 different areas on the defensive side that you're obviously going to work on them, but you prefer to have a simpler approach than not. So start, sub, or sit, rebounding, defensive rebounding, closeouts, teaching closeouts, or your pick and roll coverage.
Oof. I think I would start rebounding. I think that is just a will thing. We do talk about technique on different spots on the floor, but I think that is largely will. And I don't want to overcoach it. And frankly, I think we coach it to make ourselves feel better. But at the end of the day, it's an effort and a will thing. The other 2, I guess I would sub closeouts, though we have 3 different kinds of closeouts. I listened to the coach from France last week or the week before talk about closing out right and left. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But, we have the Steph Curry closeout and we have the KD closeout. We have the Rondo closeout. And so one of our big scouting things is deciding what kind of closeout each guy is. And I think at the high school level, that's probably appropriate. And I think that helps them when they get to college. And then, I would sit ball screen coverage. I think for me to prepare guys for college, they need to be able to understand multiple ball screen coverages. We went to icing side ball screens a few years back. It's changed everything for us defensively. I'm trying to decide what ball screen coverages we're going to use with this Nike Hoop Summit team right now. And that I'm going to be coaching later on. So I think that needs to be taught at a more technical aspect. And I think that needs to be dug into a bit.
Coach, I want to follow up on your ball screen coverage. And I know it's always a mixture of things, but what factors do you weigh the most? Is it what your team is capable of, or maybe predominantly your big, or is it what scares you the most as far as what can punish you? Corner threes, the rim roll, or the ball handler that factors into what coverage you want to play?
It's a really good question. I think first it's our personnel. I think everything we do at Blair offensively and defensively needs to start with our personnel. So do we have a guy who can drop and rim protect? Do we have physical guards that can get up in people's hips and take them away from the screen? What's the mentality? How many guys can switch? We like to recruit switchable teams. So we like to switch, 1 through 4 and even sometimes 1 through 5 if we can. So I definitely would start with our personnel.
If we go to your opponent at the high school level, would you say then it's more what the ball handler is capable of that's going to scare you the most, or the roll, or like I said, maybe kick out threes, them being able to dish it and read the shake action?
Yeah. It's definitely the ball handler. We're in New Jersey. This is guard heaven here. There's high major New Jersey guards on every team we play. And we used to do a lot of hard hedging and that kind of thing. And it was just putting 2 guys on one against high major New Jersey guards and the best teams on our schedule. It never worked out real well. And that was, again, we talked about self-assessment and where was I losing games for my team? Well, I thought, looking back on it, I thought I lost a handful of games for us tactically by being in the wrong ball screen coverage. A few years back, we couldn't contain these jitterbug Jersey guards. They were turning the corner against our hard hedge, beating 2 guys, getting downhill. We're giving up corner threes. We're giving up lob dunks. We're giving up everything. And then the guys are looking at me, and I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, we need to do something different here. And so, we've gone to sort of weakening the middle ball screens and icing on the sides. And it's given us some answers and it's given us some solutions and it's been better. And this year we went to a little ice to switch at times or ice to blitz at times. And then that gets into some funky stuff, and you can start to dictate to these guards a little more than them just dictating to us. So that's kind of my rationale.
Coach, I'd love to follow up on the ice to switch. Can you talk a little bit about, because you see that a little bit where, there's a certain maybe area on the floor, whether it's the free throw line or they get below that, then they're going to switch. And can you talk, I guess, a little bit about, you said you've done that and how that's worked out and maybe some of the areas that they know to switch or what the call is?
Yeah, well, so it's crazy. We iced to blitz a fair amount this year. And I had I had a postgraduate Division II stretch 4 who I played at the 5, and he was like having a 25-year-old European pro on my team. He would change our coverages in the middle of possessions. Okay. And if he knew it was the team's backup point guard and we had him stuck on the side and we were icing him, he'd black the ice on his own. And it was literally like, I felt like I was coaching a European pro. It's like the guys I coached for South Sudan this summer. Like this kid was at that level, understanding the game. So we would ice to switch off of scouts occasionally, and that would usually be below the foul line. But the ice to black, the ice to blitz was what we got a lot out of. And again, it would usually be against the team's backup point guard. And it would usually be when we had him kind of stuck on the sideline in a precarious position. And I'm not sure I'll ever have another X5 that can change ball screen coverages at the high school level in the middle of possessions. But we had a dude that could do it this year, and the guards listened to him. So he made me look like a good defensive coach at times when I didn't even call it.
With the ice to switch, coach, what was like the next step that you had to solve on that switch, or that kind of situations you found your guys in that then was like, okay, let's figure out how do we address this?
Well, if they roll you out of that switch, you have a guard kind of fronting a 5, say if the screener was a 5. So you're probably still bringing a tag over. Mm-hmm. And like, to me, if you're switching so that you don't have to engage a third defender, right? And so the reason I didn't love that against like a physical 5, and we wouldn't really do it in that position, is because still you're engaging a third defender at that point. I don't want to engage a third defender if we're switching. I want to try to switch like sizes. We weren't as positionally big this year, so switching is a little more difficult. But at the high school level, they often don't punish you on the roll, even when a big is rolling a guard out. And when you're iced to switch, you can be in a front if they roll you out. And so that's what I thought was good about it. However, if we were trying to front a 6'10" guy, then we often had to bring a guy over anyway. And at that point, why switch if you have to engage a third defender? Yeah. The ice to black is what I love. I mean, the ice to blitz is like something that is just, Steve Clifford, my mentor, talks about with drop coverage, and that you need to vary the drop depth. And so, when you have a kid that begins to understand that, hey, we want to vary the depth of the drop, and now we're icing and he comes up and he can make a quick black call and just jump it. I think that random defensive action is really hard to prepare for. We would talk about varying the depth based on who the ball handler was, and then obviously who you are as a defender. We had a 7-foot kid from South Sudan, Lual Manyang, who would drop deep and really could cover the rim. He had kind of NBA length. And then, like I said, we had a couple undersized bigs, and they didn't actually have great feet, but they were smart and understood angles. And they were the guys that would really vary their depth. And so come up to touch, halfway back, all the way back. I just think you need to give these good guards different looks. If you change the patterns, it makes it a little harder for them to make the read. And I think when I coach at the FIBA level in the summer, we talk about that as well a lot, because those FIBA guards, the African guards, are so good. And, we have so much length with our South Sudan team. And it's just, let's give them different looks, up the touch, all the way back. They're going to shoot the floater one time, where's the lob going to come from? And, and I think that just without changing your coverage, it changes up the patterns, and it changes up what the guard sees.